you please share the story of beginning of business of Laxmi Organics?
Sure. So Laxmi as an organization started about 30 years ago. We started at a time in which some chemicals were excess in the state of Maharashtra. So primarily ethanol. There was a lot of sugar production and ethanol was largely produced. So we got access to that ethanol and started making derivatives of that chemical and selling to various customers for that. That's how we started. So the last 3 years we've been growing about 15 to 18% per year. So we've grown from a 950 crore company to about a 1400 crore company today. We see the domestic market actually increasing since India, the country, is very import dependent in various chemicals, and that's where we see an opportunity for the chemical industry.
So what are your imports?
Many of the basic chemicals are not available in India because India's natural resources and natural chemical industry, or the basic chemical industry, remains very nascent. Therefore, most petrochemical plants and their immediate derivatives are only international. So be it Southeast Asia, be it the Middle East, is where we import from. And large crop-based derivatives like corn or ethanol come from the US and Brazil, which are the world's largest producers.
So how you started your import for the first time, and what were the challenges at that time?
The challenges I'm sure the company faced was from getting a license, which is, I think, the first large challenge. Also convincing international suppliers that you are a credible company.
How did you and when did you venture into exports? And again, what were the primary challenges, hurdles faced by Laxmi Organics in the initial phase?
Challenge for export was to convince an international pharmaceutical company that you produce good quality product. I'm talking about 30 years ago. India was not as well known, and price would not be the only driver. Price had to be a hygiene factor. So to convince them that you produced as good as their neighbor was the large challenge. So building that credibility and thereby promising something and delivering on your promise time and again, which is how we've been able to build a business and have people trust us.
What were the first few countries, Harsh, where you started exporting?
So Europe was among the first few countries, and that remains today one of our largest markets. So we've got a lot of deep penetration over there. We even set up our own office in the Netherlands about 7 years ago. So that's been a big market for us.
What are the points you consider before expanding into a new business market territory?
We choose a market for various factors. Now, one of them is obviously competitive advantage. So India has a competitive advantage to various other countries for trade tariff reasons. That becomes one of the immediate drivers to be part of that market. The second driver, which is if one of our commodity product lines is heavily dependent on the cost of freight or the cost to reach that destination. So the cost of shipping becomes a factor. But on the specialty side, I think common understanding or the way of thinking or the cultural aspects are a lot more important and supersede costs. So that's where personal relationships and how you're able to connect with people matters.
Similar for the imports? Any insights?
So what is the most competitive source on the most sustainable basis? Would be a simple geographical reason why. But many global players today have plants across geographies. So it doesn't really matter where their plants are located, it's more of a global relationship that you have with companies, which is what defines your importing source.
Tell me about a range of your products and what are the reasons for choosing them?
So product selection is obviously a big topic in any company. It should be in any company.
Yeah.
We have several filters as we apply them from a development or a concept to commercialization. So you've got financial metrics, non-financial metrics, sustainable metrics. The reason for you to exist in the business over a sustained period of time is some of the filters that we use. But I think the most important filter is what we do is a VOC. So as long as your customer or your customers believe that you should be in that business and you should be in that product or that product range, is what drives us to invest and get into new products.
So what is your strategy to find the right fit for buyers or suppliers? Yeah.
So we definitely use InfodriveIndia. That becomes a very easy way. So to find customers, if the product is being imported, who are the actual customers? We do use services like InfodriveIndia in India, and we have got similar companies in different countries if you're finding international clients. And I think there are some other databases as well available globally. So there's a particular agrochemical or pharmaceutical. What are the markets looking like? We use our networks and thereafter to establish buyers and suppliers. It's actually got to do with matching objectives. We need to understand why are the buyers consuming those products in the country or exporting those products if you are buying it, and how important would it be, or how important is the value proposition for both. Based on that is when we actually meet or speak, is when we actually understand and take it ahead.
So any challenges you face in finding the right buyers and suppliers, and how do you overcome them?
So if, for example, the biggest challenge we find is in countries which don't speak the same language, like China.
Okay.
So that becomes, if you've got we've got buyers and suppliers in both places. When you don't speak the same language, I think there's a lot of trust building issues involved, or a trust building exercise involved, because you can't judge body language. Therefore, you either must have an intermediary who plays the role of bridging the gap, or then you must visit or live in that country for long enough for them to be able to trust you or meet them often enough.
So how do you make sure you're putting a right price? This price is very important.
So multiple ways of pricing. One is obviously trade data. With trade data, we are able to tell get a great amount of idea of what is happening. But more than that, you also look at the value proposition. So what is it that you're offering to the customer? Is it the same thing? Is it different? And that helps us make pricing decisions.
What are the things that you did differently that makes you stand out from your competitors?
It's no secret. I think it's been mentioned in several management books that you can always ideate and build a billion-dollar business on paper, but to execute it is really the challenge. So I think our focus on execution, keeping things a lot simpler than keeping things simple and doing things is what helps us succeed. we've not overcomplicated situations. We've not really. You can always make an investment decision by spending 1 year on an analysis, and then making the decision. Decision can go wrong. That's happened with companies like Walmart, with Tesco internationally, where they've failed in many of theirs. But if you're able to make quicker decisions and be able to execute them, I think that's where the meat is really in the game.
Thank you, Rajji. Thank you.